Next, USC students and faculty protest the cancellation of the valedictorian speech.
Turn that down, Justin. On campus, we're celebrating a love of books, but across the nation, many states are fighting to keep books on the shelves.
And we'll take you inside of California's largest bookstore just a few miles from campus. See It Live starts now.
Hundreds gathered on campus today for a march against USC's removal of the valedictorian's graduation speech. It began with a speech before becoming a silent march around USC's campus. Hi, I'm Avery Goodman.
And I'm Louisa Tripoli. Protesters were instructed to wear hoodies and masks to symbolize what organizers described as USC's institutional silencing of valedictorian Ashna Tabassum.
Students gathered around Tommy Trojan and marched through campus in silence to show their support for Tabassum. Many student groups spoke in front of the crowd to share their frustrations with the administration's decision.
This is a protest for not only free speech, but also protecting Arab, Muslim, Palestinian, minority students. This is really just an opportunity for marginalized communities kind of come together, especially after USC silenced the most important person from our graduating class. No matter what their excuse is, what it looks like from an international angle is that they are silencing a brown hijabi woman's voice. And for a school that wants to tout diversity, equity, and inclusion, this goes completely against that.
In a statement addressed to President Folt, over 120 USC faculty, quote, call on Provost Guzman to reinstate the valedictorian's opportunity to speak at commencement. It is an honor that should not be revoked because we live in troubled times. Rather, it is in troubled times that we should recommit to our core values and the mission of the University of Southern California. I spoke to one faculty member who joined the protest and shared his support.
The university in this case is really the Provost Guzman, who has abandoned us. He's abandoned the academic mission of the university and really brought shame on the university. And they've let the Trojan horse of fear, of controversy, enter into this university and fail to stand up for academic values. Which I think they should put her back on the stand and let her give the valedictorian speech.
The feminist anti-war group called Pink will be protesting at the Festival of Books on campus on Sunday. They're calling for Tabassum to be allowed to speak and advocating for a free Palestine.
Another protest today at Columbia University in New York City led to the arrest of more than 100 students.
Will be arrested and charged with trespassing. This is the New York City Police Department. You are participating in unauthorized encampment.
Police also detained students for taking part in a Gaza solidarity encampment. The students occupied the East Lawn on campus starting early yesterday morning. Many stayed overnight at the camp. Protesters are demanding that the university divest from Israel. Today, the university placed 3 students on interim suspension.
As of a few minutes ago, I received notice from Barnard administration that I have been suspended for my involvement in the Gaza solidarity encampment. I want to make it very clear to Columbia administration and Barnard administration that I refuse to be silenced in my demand for divestment, and I will remain vocally opposed to the genocide in Gaza.
The daughter of U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar is among the 3 students suspended from Columbia. The NYPD confirmed she was also arrested today. Many of the protesters were issued a summons for trespassing. While colleges on both coasts are involved in free speech disputes, access to literature continues to be threatened across the country. Reporter Jonathan Martin is live with the story.
And you can see the white tents behind me, guys. This weekend marks the 28th annual Los Angeles Times Festival of Books here at USC. Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom outlawed book banning in California, but across the nation, that is not the case. According to PEN America, there have been 4,349 book bans recorded from July 2023 to December 2023 across 23 states and 52 public school districts. Florida alone banned over 3,000. Among the top book bans are notable titles like Genderqueer, Flamer, Tricks, The Handmaid's Tale, the graphic novel, and Crank. In red states primarily, books relating to LGBT and race-related issues are being removed from curriculum and from the classrooms. I had the chance to speak to Dr. Morgan Polikoff about the issue.
Whistling past the graveyard when you're taking books out of school libraries, arguing that they're inappropriate for children, when any kid can go on their phone 24 hours a day and access untold amounts of pornography and profanity, right? So like, what exactly are we accomplishing here? So I think to some extent this is just more than anything just a culture war issue, just like abortion is, or one of these other issues that trying to divide us rather than trying to bring us together and improve education for kids.
Even though book banning is not allowed in California, some cities like Huntington Beach are enacting book review boards, which critics call book banning. For Annenberg Media, I'm Jonathan Martin.
This week, Florida passed a law to reduce the number of books being banned in its public schools. Now people who don't have any children in school will only be able to challenge one book per month. Critics say it's an effort to rewrite and whitewash history. Last year, Florida accounted for 72% of the banned books in American public schools. In 2022, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed the Individual Freedom Act, or the Stop Woke Act. It was designed to regulate the content in schools and workplaces. The Stop Woke Act prohibited the teaching of topics like critical race theory. Proponents say that the goal was to protect students and employees from hostile environments, but some teachers say it misses the mark.
I recently looked at the list of banned books, and it kind of varies by county, but a lot of them are, in my personal opinion, shouldn't be banned. And while like those things do touch on some, I would say, like touchy topics, I do think that it's important to teach those topics to children, because if we never allow them to have exposure to these types of things, then it's like when they actually encounter them in the real world, they're not going to have any idea how to approach those situations. So I think that it's a hindrance to just general education and general human development. And so it saddens me that the state that I work in has that many banned books.
And Florida isn't alone. The ACLU says 45 states have introduced bills to limit instruction on racism and sexism.
With more books banned in the U.S., librarians fear for their jobs and safety. We spoke to a USC librarian who says this is nothing new for librarians.
Librarians have always been in the role of providing information. Book bans have always been with us, unfortunately. Back into, when Gutenberg first made that Bible, hey, there have been book bans from then on. There are more book bans now. More individual titles are being banned now than ever before. I think it's because people are just fearful.
The American Library Association recorded 1,269 attempts to ban books in 2022, nearly twice as much as the previous year. Librarians have been criticized for providing books about marginalized communities, including LGBTQ and people of color.
It's frustrating for parents that want their children to read these books. It's frustrating for kids that need to understand that they are not alone. And allowing people to explore different ideas and read about is something incredibly healthy. I believe, all kids kind of try to find themselves and trying to find themselves in literature, in movies, in television shows is incredibly important because it affirms their own self.
Some librarians are finding creative ways to fight back. In Brooklyn, the New York Public Library started Books Unbanned, which makes banned books available to people around the country.
Each year, the U.S. Department of Education analyzes trends in math, reading, science, and history learning. In the most recent report, reading scores were down for all ages when compared to before the pandemic. The 2022 report showed average reading scores for 4th and 8th graders decreased by 3 points. 37% of 4th graders performed below the basic level in reading. Those who scored best had regular access to a computer during the pandemic. Readers Plus is a literacy and math tutoring program. It pairs USC Work Study students with children from 5 local elementary schools. One of the tutors says the students they work with were adversely affected by COVID-19.
The time of the pandemic for them was maybe, kindergarten for a second. And that's a very critical point of learning for young kids. They need a lot of enrichment during kindergarten and first grade. In the classroom now, there's a lot of technology, and just technology is just more widespread among students. It's just much more commonplace. So we wanted to try and as much as we can, like use like physical, like text, like books.
Readers Plus will be part of the Festival of Books this weekend. The tutors will host read-alouds, and elementary school students who visit the booth can pick up free books.
The Los Angeles Times Festival of Books has hundreds of participants, multiple stages, and a range of panelists. The first time Latinidad stage will be branded with performances and readings about Latinx culture.
So some of our panels will be held in English, some in Spanish, some in Spanglish. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great event for the whole family, to bring new audiences as well. We're really excited about it. We also have discussions on topics such as self-care, Latinx generational wealth, the power of the Latino vote as we have an election coming up, and also just like really talking about that first generation experience.
Some notable celebrity panelists at this weekend's book festival include Good Morning America host George Stephanopoulos, RuPaul, and Golden Globe award-winning actress Octavia Spencer. The book fair begins this Saturday and lasts the whole weekend. You can check the schedule on the LA Times website to make sure you don't miss any of your favorite speakers and panelists.
I have your next read. This is probably my most anticipated release of the year, A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal. I'm so excited to be holding this. It's a young adult fantasy with romance.
Beginning as a hashtag and now collecting over 181 billion views on TikTok, Book Talk is where creators talk about books. It is the largest social media community for book lovers. Creators say the app's popularity is spurring a new wave of paperback book buying.
Yeah, TikTok is really just it really has given a boost to physical books in general, as well as Kindles and reading in general. But I've noticed there is definitely a rise in people who actually want to read the physical book, whether it's going out and buying it or getting it from their library, which is so fun because I believe the physical books are art in themselves, like the cover, how they're formatted. So it's really nice to see that getting more appreciation.
48% of TikTok users say they have read more books than they did before due to Book Talk recommendations. From 2020 to 2021, global print book revenue increased by $5 billion. U.S. Book Talk revenue increased from 2020 to 2023 by $34 million.
Like, I feel like Book Talk is a big community. So it's like, oh, if you're really excited about this book, I'm going to want to read it. So it like motivates me and just gets me like interacting with other people that love books.
It's also given me so many opportunities that I never would have gotten before. I've gotten to do live streams and events with my favorite authors that I've looked up to for forever. And I'm always screaming internally when I do that. It's so amazing. I've also made so many incredible friends, so many incredible connections with publishers that I love. It has truly changed my life completely. My life now looks nothing like how it did before I started my book talk.
By propelling authors and creators to internet fame, Book Talk has played a part in reviving reading among social media users. For reviews and recommendations on recent trending books, simply search #BookTalk on TikTok.
The Last Bookstore in downtown LA is California's largest new and used bookstore. There are also 5 art studios and art installations among the shelves.
There's just kind of like this rebellious attitude to the store. I don't want to necessarily get pigeonholed into the same old bookstore type feel. Upstairs there's the book tunnel, the famous book tunnel, and there's also the book portal. That's like a window made out of books. But we also have the boat. It's made out of paperback books. We have the flying books upstairs.
The 22,000 square foot store is housed in a 100-year-old bank and holds nearly 250,000 books. Customers say they enjoy coming to the store for the books and its vintage charm.
Coming here gives me more of a open stage to kind of look around and kind of get a feel for other ideas, other topics, fan fiction, or just the run-of-the-mill children's books. So it's fun to just kind of come in and browse, because you can't get that online.
I'm a big thrifter and vintage shop person, love it so much. And I think it's almost like the same, like with books. It's like you can find maybe a one-of-a-kind book or one that you're not going to be able to find all the time. So finding a store like this that's an antique bookstore, but also a retail bookstore as well, you can find a good mix of that.
At almost 20 years old, the Last Bookstore is certainly not the last bookstore, but it is one of a kind.
Here's a twist on a classroom reading exercise. In Las Vegas, some elementary school students got a chance to read to rescue dogs. Nevada SPCA workers brought several rescue dogs to the Gene Ward Elementary School. Educators say getting the students to read to the pups helps them build self-esteem and improve their speaking skills. The bonus for the rescue dogs is an extra dose of human contact and attention.
It's a great way to give the kids a really stress-free way to practice their reading and kind of give them a positive interaction to make reading more enjoyable, give them a reason to want to continue reading. And then for the dogs, it gets them out of the shelter. So it's also reducing stress for them by getting them out of that shelter environment.
The Day of Dog Reading was a part of a promotion for the upcoming Adopt a Shelter Pet Day on April 30th.
Thanks for watching See It Live. From everyone at Annenberg Media, I'm Louisa Tripoli.
And I'm Avery Goodman. For more coverage, watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com//Annenberg Media. Good night.